What's going on, everyone? We hope you had a great trading day today, but even if you didn't, that's all right. In today's video, we're going to cover everything you have to know to make tomorrow a good one. But looking at the market for today, we could see that 84% of the S&P 500 closed up in the green. And while this is good to see, this is just the beginning of a very opportunity-filled week, as we have quite the lineup, as we have crucial inflation data set to release later in the week, but there are also a handful of pretty important but slightly scary warning signs happening in the market right now. So of course, we're going to cover that data and go over what the market historically does in situations like it is currently in. On top of that, Apple had an event today. Palantir stock is skyrocketing, and we also have some exciting earnings on the schedule as well. So with that being said, Tom, let's not waste any time and let's jump right into it.
Yeah, today the S&P 500 actually recovered up in a pretty good way. We closed up 1.12% on the SPYs. It bounced off that like 538 to 540 support. So today was a nice recovery day. The big question is, though, is this recovery going to be like a multi-day continuation back up, or are we just going to test resistance before inevitably falling back down a little bit more? And there's going to be some crucial inflation data, like you mentioned, which we'll talk about in a little while. But one of my favorite stocks that moved today, Mike, was Palantir. We talked about this one yesterday quite a bit. Now, of course, it was up in after hours a ton on Friday. From the low of after hours pretty much to the high, it was up around like 8.5%. Well, today it opened, it actually continued up in a pretty good way, like adding another almost 6% to that gain there. So overall, Mike, Palantir continued up in a great way today, and you can see that the price action was fantastic, and they were added in to the S&P 500, of course. So that is that's quite the move for Palantir, right? Considering just how low they were a couple years ago. You know, a lot of people were looking for Palantir to go bankrupt in 2022. Look at him now, joining the S&P.
Tom, you know how it is. When stocks are going up, everyone loves them, but when they're down and they're actually the best time to buy, no one wants to buy. So that's the story of the stock market. But either way, Palantir is a stock that I love for the long term. Been holding this company for a long time now, and I don't plan on selling them anytime soon. But regardless, the stock is moving up with a lot of momentum, and this stock is a stock that is very volatile in both directions, which is good and bad. For instance, when the stock is, let's say, ripping to the upside in a momentum-driven way, just like it is now, it has potential to continue up for multiple days at a time. But it's just important to make sure that when that, I guess you could say, trend changes, you're not left holding the bag. And that's where like scaling out and just having a proper risk management strategy comes into play. But the main thing is that the stock is moving in a strong way right now. And, it's just got added to the S&P 500, and it's, at recent highs as well. So definitely make sure to keep it on your radar for the rest of this week, because again, when this stock moves, it tends to move in a pretty solid way.
Yeah, Karp is pretty happy with his stock right now, right? I'm sure he loves it. Shareholders love it, and I know a lot of people like to make jokes about Karp, guys. I can't wait to read some of these in the comments. I know Sean likes to do some funny ones. If you guys know him in the Discord, but Mike, Palantir stock is a pretty big one here. In the short term, it is approaching like a pretty key $35 resistance. That will be a pretty big level to keep in mind. And going out to the daily chart, I mean, this one's getting pretty close to all-time highs now at this point. Like, if we continue up here on a multi-day continuation of this move, testing $40 will be a pretty good feat in the short term. That's like 14 to 15% to the upside. And the all-time high is still pretty far up there, around 30% away, around like that $44 to $45 area.
Sounds good. If you're someone who is not already in Palantir, now realistically isn't the best time to enter for like a long-term position. But if you are looking at it for short-term opportunities, the main thing you'll want to see is continuous pressure on its high of day, and then just the stock, holding support and moving in a strong way. If it starts to break down, don't feel the need to try and force a setup with Palantir. I'm sure there will be other opportunities in that sense. But Tom, another stock that got a decent amount of attention today was Apple, as they had their event where they released a new iPhone, a new watch, some AirPods, and some other stuff. And Apple's doing what Apple does best. They release new products that don't seem too new compared to their already existing ones.
Yeah, that's the big thing with Apple right now. Now, Apple did mount a pretty good comeback around the end of the day today, but all day long, this stock was kind of falling off and just testing like that 217 support while the market was ripping higher. And people are kind of pissed right now that Apple just continues to come out with pretty much the same product after the same product after the same product. They don't even really update the look of anything. Like the new iPhone 16 Pro looks pretty much the exact same as the 15 Pro. Now, of course, there's going to be little differences here and there. They did update the camera, which was cool. I will say this 4K at 120 FPS sounds pretty awesome out of a phone camera. So, you know, that's pretty good stats there. I know that they're updating a lot of stuff with the chips as well, but at the end of the day, Mike, you know, it just didn't wow investors, in my opinion. If anything, I would say there was a big negative sentiment surrounding this one. Now, of course, Apple does put on a good show. These I would say announcements are pretty awesome, right? They usually do a great job producing them, and I got to give them credit on that because they definitely know how to put on a good event.
No doubt. And like they did release some cool things, like their Apple Intelligence, which is like their AI will basically allow you to, you know, create custom emojis, and you could like basically like search, you know, using words to pull up like certain pictures and videos and all that cool stuff, and a whole bunch of other features. So that's pretty exciting. But like you said, in terms of the stock's performance, I would classify this as a loss for Apple, especially when you look at the heat map. Like realistically, Tom, 84% of stocks in the S&P 500 today closed in the green. And Apple had at least an event that you would at least like to think there would be some hype to, and the stock closed up by 0.04% on the day. In my book, that's a loss. So looking at Apple right now, there's not like a ton of momentum with it either. But if we do start to see this one, you know, move in a momentum-filled way in either direction, that is where the opportunity will be. There's not really a point in trying to like pick like a specific direction with this one, given it's kind of just like straddling off of like a, you know, important level right around 220. But one thing that I did think was pretty interesting is back in like the first to second week of June, Apple had an event, and initially the stock didn't really move too much off of it, but the next day is when things really started to get crazy. It was right around like June 10th to June 11th. So keep that in mind. And again, the reason that we brought up Apple is because, you know, their last major event had a big move the day after the fact.
Yeah, that's pretty huge, Mike. You know, we might end up seeing some better price action here out of Apple. I will say there's a pretty good support here sitting right around 217. I'm definitely going to be watching that in the short term. And I might be talking about Apple a little bit later on in the video as well. So definitely be ready for that. But Mike, I know Palantir and Apple were pretty much stealing the show today, right? But at the end of the day, we're still in September. And I will say time is flying. We're already about halfway through the month already.
And that's not a good thing. So for those of you who've been paying attention to the seasonality data, we could see that the second half of September is actually the worst 2-week period for the stock market throughout the entire year. And this 2-week stretch is one of just a few other 2-week stretches of you know, the entire year that actually has negative average returns. So this is important because it goes to show you that the time we are heading into for the market is especially negative, and it's a time where the market tends to struggle quite a bit. One thing that I thought was very interesting to go alongside this data is when we look at a stat that basically shows the percentage of stocks in the S&P 500 that are at 3-month lows. We could see right now on like an absolute basis, it's still really low, around 6%. But what concerns me is that rate of change in the short term. The percentage is starting to pick up quite a bit. And as we've seen throughout history and even recent history, you know, it is not all that uncommon to see this percentage get up to, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50% in some cases. So again, we're starting to see like a nice explosive move higher now, but we're still in the early stages. So again, we want to showcase this data ahead of time so everyone could be best prepared for, you know, especially these 2 weeks that are set to come.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that right now in the stock market, Mike, like today, we're just seeing some consolidation. Overall, we've been seeing a pretty major pullback out of the SPY. And whenever you see these major pullbacks, sometimes there's also pretty good green days and different, scenarios like that mixed into the overall downtrend as well. And I think that that's actually like what we're seeing here in the short term. But like whenever we go out to like that September data again, just to see that the second half is like the worst second half of any other second half of the year. It's always funny to say. It's almost like a tongue twister, but at the end of the day, it's a very negative time for the market. There's a lot of stuff hitting us at one time, and we're not trying to be like doom and gloom out here. Continue to adapt. Today was a nice green day. I actually saw a lot of great opportunity with like Palantir to the upside. There was a lot of nice price action even out of some of the chip stocks. You go out to Nvidia. It had a really nice close, and even in after hours is still pushing higher, up 3.5% on the day in total. So, continue to adapt out there, but just keep this in the back of your minds. We're getting to that time of September where it's pretty rough. Now, I'm hoping, Mike, that this isn't priced in, right? There's some people that are starting to try to call the bottom here, thinking that we are priced in. I'm not quite so sure yet, though.
Yep, and another thing worth keeping in mind is that, the market has been getting more and more volatile in the short term, which is a great thing because volatility presents some of the best opportunities you will ever see in the market. But even over like the rest of this week, we should have some pretty good, I guess you could say, volatility producing events like the inflation data report that'll release 1 hour before market open on Wednesday. So definitely keep this in mind. And then as week goes on, we also have some PPI data on Thursday before open, and then some consumer sentiment data on Friday. But yeah, the inflation data report on Wednesday will be very important. And then, of course, we can't forget about the earnings lineup either. Oracle reported in after hours today, and so far the stock is doing very well, so that's great to see. But also keep in mind that Roaring Kitty's GameStop is reporting after the bell tomorrow, too.
Yeah, that definitely is. That's going to be a fun report. I know some people were even talking about Play a little bit for the week as well. Adobe, I think, will be pretty awesome on Thursday. I mean, besides those, there's really not anything that's too important, but I will say it's good to see Oracle moving higher tonight. That's definitely going to help the case for maybe a bullish run tomorrow. But as we know, Mike, Oracle, it doesn't have quite the influence as some of these other stocks have on the market.
Yeah, to say the least, right? So good stuff there. And besides that, Tom, let's jump back to SPY. And what would you say are the key levels to keep in mind for both directions? And what are you seeing with SPY overall right now?
Yeah, with SPY in the short term, it moved up pretty well today on this recovery, and we're running into a lot of the resistances that were previous support. So right now, to the upside, I'm mainly watching 550. 550 is going to be a major level to watch, but it's not just 550. You have to actually give or take a little bit sometimes at these larger levels, and you can see that the majority of those hits were actually happening right around 549.50. So I'm really going to be watching that area tomorrow very closely. If we get past there, the next major resistance I have on the chart is right around 553. Of course, there's going to be a bunch of minor resistances mixed in as well. As far as support, 542.50 was very nice today. There was a lot of hits there. 546 will be another one in the shorter term, but to the downside, the main one is 538 and 540. So I know I rattled off a lot there. You guys might have to refresh the video, but you could also take a screenshot and see a lot of these lines on your charts as well.
No doubt. And I think the main takeaway is that, there's a lot of resistance overhead, and we're heading into a seasonally weak time of the year. So there's definitely going to be opportunities playing the move to the upside, but it's very important to be skeptical and also aware of the overall market conditions that we are in right now, and don't get too greedy because, the market right now is a completely different market than what we've seen earlier this year for multiple different reasons. So definitely keep that in mind. And, like we always say, adapt with the market. And I think now is definitely a time to be more skeptical in terms of the bullish side of things. But Good stuff there, Tom, and let's jump right into some setups and predictions. A stock I'm watching very closely right now is GLD, and it is to the upside. GLD follows gold prices. I covered this one a good amount over the past couple weeks and months on the channel. Basically, gold prices are just under record highs, and we are in a situation where more profit taking and fear is slowly creeping into the market, and we also have inflation data set to release this week on Wednesday. With that being said, if the inflation data comes in, what we'll say, not as good as the market would like it to, that could definitely help gold prices push higher. And, as people just resort to safety and just, areas of the market that can kind of protect against a, not ideal inflationary environment. Regardless, GLD and gold prices in general have been uptrending in a very strong way. They're just under all-time highs, so it's definitely on my bullish radar for the next couple weeks, and it would be phenomenal to see a break of this recent high and, a nice continued uptrend in gold, possibly even heading into this year's election.
Yeah, I don't even know how strong this uptrend could get, Mike. I mean, this is insane. This overhead resistance is insanely strong, and if we break there, I mean, there might be a pretty significant breakout opportunity as that occurs. So I'm definitely going to have it on the radar for sure. With my first play, it's going to be a bit of a different play here than I bet a lot of people were expecting, and I'm actually going to be looking at Microsoft to the upside. I actually kind of like the way Microsoft is holding support down here in the short term, and I would not be surprised to see the market continue up a little bit more tomorrow and consolidate before falling more maybe later in the week or next week. But I'm really going to watch for another move up into this like 410 to 412 resistance. If we end up breaking above 408 tomorrow, that's going to be the main level I'm watching before that main breakout. But that's really what I'm looking for with Microsoft tomorrow, just a continued recovery. And I don't necessarily think that, oh my gosh, it's time to buy the dip and we're going to be breaking all-time highs soon. I'm not saying that. I know a lot of people are in that mindset right now while these stocks are low, but I think it's still a little early for that.
All right, sounds good. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Zoom, and it is to the upside. I talked about this one in yesterday's video as well, but Zoom is a stock that has been uptrending in a strong way ever since they reported earnings, and it has been starting to bounce off of some of the significant support levels that it has had over the past couple of years. And what I really like about this is that it's a stock that, one, kind of moves by itself, but also it has pulled back a good amount from its recent highs, where it's offering, like a nice opportunity to, I guess you could say, go along with this uptrend. But again, the stock isn't overextended or anything like that. So Zoom is definitely going to be on my bullish radar going forward. I would love to see a bounce, maybe off the $65 support and then a potential retest of like the $70 area, and then maybe even recent highs right around $72.50.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm definitely going to be eyeing up some of those supports. 65 will be a major one I'm watching in the short term, Mike. I'll definitely have Zoom on my radar. I'm even going to make an alert there because I like it that much. So that's how I really like it if I have that made. No, I'm just kidding. I just want to make sure that I remember that one. But with my next play, I'm looking at Apple, and we're going back to that one. They had that weird news today with their Apple event, so to say, the iPhone event. If we end up seeing a good breakdown tomorrow of 217, I'm going to continue to watch Apple to the downside, but I am respecting this support, okay? If we go to the Bookmap, 217 is pretty major. There was a lot of buyers stacked up there today. They did leave towards the end of day. We'll have to see if maybe they start to come back in there tomorrow. And then 215 is the next major support there. That might be a good target if we see 217 break. And then if we get enough momentum and 215 breaks, then obviously, continue watching it to the downside as that momentum builds up. To the upside, I am going to respect this support, Mike. There was a lot of sellers today at 223. I also noticed quite a bit at 220 earlier in the day, so I'm definitely going to watch that as some slight resistance. But overall here, I want to see Apple just continue to break down, right? I know they started pulling back up, though, in after hours pretty well.
Yeah, well, I guess you could say they're off to a good start with their relatively disappointing performance today. So good stuff there, and let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Affirm to the downside.
AFRM, pretty bad movement in the short term. If they end up breaking under the $38 support, then keep watching them down.
All right, with the next one, we have UAL to the upside.
Yeah, United Airlines, we called this one out yesterday to the upside. It ended up exploding today. I don't know what these airlines are on right now, but I'll take it, whatever they're on. It's like some jet fuel or something. But if they break above 49 tomorrow, watch for them to the upside, but just be a little wary of that $50 resistance.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Tesla for both directions.
TSLA, pretty crazy right now. There's a good support down around 210, so if they're able to break under 215, then watch for another move towards that 210 support. If they are able to break above 220, then keep watching them back up.
All right, so we have the upside level for a potential move higher. We have the downside level for a potential move lower. This is for Tesla. Don't forget about the upside level with UAL and then the downside level with Affirm. Either way, these three stocks are on watch for potential day trades for tomorrow. If and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. The stronger these stocks move, the better the setups become. So definitely keep them close on watch. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $769,000 big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol mRNA, Moderna. I'm sure a handful of people remember this one, especially from the 2020 days. Look at the weekly chart on that, Tom. That is quite the run there. But either way, basically today, the big money put $769,000 into the Moderna 75 strike call options that expire on October 18th of 2024. These call options are already in the money. The size of the big money trade is, respectable. There's a decent amount of time to these options. And then basically Moderna just got licensing for one of their manufacturing facilities in Canada, and this is going to allow them to really ramp up production and get things going in the Canadian market. The CEO was very optimistic about this as well, and basically the stock moved up in a strong way. Looking at Moderna right now, while this stock has been all over the place over the past couple of years, and while I don't really care for it that much, what I do like about it is that it's volatile, and it's actually extremely volatile. Whether you look at this stock on a day-to-day basis or quite literally any other time frame, this stock jumps all over the place, and that is definitely good in situations like this one. What I like right now is that Moderna's right at, let's say $76.61 a share. A stop loss can be placed just under, let's say, the $71.50 support level, with profit targets, all the way up to the $85 to $92 range, maybe even higher, depending on the risk profile that you're looking to set up. But I really like the risk, or I guess you say reward to risk skew, and the fact that the big money is coming in at a time where there's not only news associated with the stock, but the stock is also already moving in a momentum-filled way. So definitely keep this one close on watch.
Yeah, I really like how we saw a nice bounce up in the short term. I think there could end up being a pretty good continuation out of this one. They have news, which is good. Whenever you get a company like Moderna and then they have good news like this, that's generally something that can drive buyers in. We've seen huge moves out of Moderna from different things like this in the past. And, like you said, you look at their chart, they're one of the more volatile healthcare stocks out there. The average percent rise is 2.33%, and the average percent fall is only 2%. I mean, that's pretty low. Pretty high. If you actually look at most of the bigger, I would say, healthcare stocks, they're generally not that volatile. But Moderna's a crazy one, Mike. This is definitely a crazy big money play. But like you said, you can actually have a pretty good risk reward with the stop loss there. I think that having a stop right around that $71.50 to $70 range is a great area there, and that provides the good setup that we're looking for combined with news. Seems like a win-win here.
Yeah, so either way, keep this stock close on watch going forward. But as we look at the market right now and just the situation as a whole, we're set for a pretty exciting week, especially with the inflation data set to come out. Some stocks already moving in some pretty crazy ways, and all of the resistance we have overhead. So I'm pretty excited, and I really hope you guys are as well, because we're getting to that time of the year where I guess you could say the time of the year where everyone's been everyone's been waiting for between the seasonality, but also the election and all the other craziness that we have going on in the market and world right now. So if you guys are new to the channel, consider obliterating the subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. In every video, we cover everything you have to know about the market, important charts and data that you would have never otherwise seen, and we try to get all of this covered in usually 20 to 25 minutes or less. So again, consider obliterating the subscribe button if you want to get our videos recommended to you more often. But besides that, Tom, we also have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Alex the Great, in the Stocked Up Discord. He had a pretty solid day with some Tesla call options. So happy Monday and keep on rolling. But besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.